Waiting for the clock. Any minute. There we go. Now waiting for the preview. Oh, preview's already caught up. Cool. Okay. Roshi says, "Hi Adam, again not able to watch this live, but we'll keep it for my next painting session. Just wanted to wish you happy holidays. I look forward to another great year watching your content. Cheers." Well, I appreciate that, Roshi. I want to say that I also appreciate all of you as well who are here live, or people who are watching it later on as a recording. It's Saturday noon here, and everything is technologically, at least here, seeming to work just fine. So yeah, let's see here. We got about 12 people right now watching, which is fun. Chris says, "Hi Adam, I will try to tune in, but if I miss, I would love to hear if you have any new thoughts on Rangers of Shadowdeep and the forthcoming solo bat reps." Haven't really had a chance to do much more with Rangers of Shadowdeep right now. I've been in conversation with Joseph McCullough, who's the author, and we might do some things, which I'll be able to talk about hopefully a little bit further on down the road. So that's cool. Bat reps, yeah, I'll talk a little bit more about bat reps in a bit. Not just specifically those, but bat reps in general. VJ Morph says, "Morning all." Randall says, "What's up, guys? How's it going?" Simon Key says, "Ahoy hoy." Let's see here. We got Mac the Maker saying, "Hello all." VJ Morph is a bit tired. Just got in from work an hour ago. I know it's like 5 in the morning over by you there, VJ. I appreciate it. Mac the Maker says, "My wife wants to know what to get me for Christmas, but I have no ideas. I really don't need any more models or minis. This is a weird feeling." Yeah, no, I can't, like, my wife and I, we don't buy anything for each other for Christmas because we're just like, well, it's the rest of the year we buy things and it's fine, and so we don't need to. But we have like a kind of a friends kind of round robin Secret Santa thing. And the last several years, I've just been like, I don't know, give money to the animal shelter or something. And, I'm going to open a soda. It's going to be loud. Sorry. Yeah, I really don't need anything. So I don't particularly, I understand what you're saying. Randall says, "We never have enough minis." Well, yeah. Saber's Edge 68 says, "Hi and happy holidays, everyone, from snowy Winnipeg. In theory, we may have a white Christmas here. We don't right now. Like, most of the snow has melted because we've had unseasonably warm temperatures. But in theory, we're going to maybe have some snow on Christmas Day. So I honestly don't want any. Frankly, I could do without it, but I think that other people will enjoy it. So, yeah." Jesse Daniel says, "Morning from Shawano this time." How you doing up in Shawano? Happy holidays from Randall. Black's Cleric says, "Happy Christmas all from Gosport, England. Glad to have you here." Let me see, what else have we got? Hey, it's Emily. Emily says, "Good morning, everyone. So excited to catch one live while I'm not at work." Yeah, I think that's a good thing. I'm glad that you're not at work. You get to spend some time with your boys. Cosmonic, hi all. Gary Doyle says, "Good evening from Margate, UK." Good evening. Bastion says, "Greetings from Germany and very soon, happy Christmas to you." Yep. We've got, because Christmas is what, Tuesday? Christmas is Tuesday. Randall says, 65 and sunny today here in Dallas. It might get cloudy for Christmas. Well, that's kind of like a white Christmas if the sky is cloudy. Emily says, "Just finished filming my second of 6 video experiments for YouTube miniature hobbying. I watched the first one. I don't know if I've seen a link for the second one. You must have posted. I've been very busy. But yeah, I like it. I like what you're doing there. And you've got some background anyway, doing, for what you've said, doing like video editing for teaching and things like that. So that's cool. VJ Morph says, "UNICEF have great vaccine donation gift packs that you can buy as gifts for people. My mom has recently become an anti-vaxxer, so that's her Christmas gift sorted. Nice. I think that's a good idea. Yeah, I honestly, I mean, like, I have so many things to paint. I mean, I can always use socks, I guess, which is weird. When you were a kid, if you got socks, it was just like, you know, heartbreaking because you want toys and whatever. And now, as an adult, I'm like, sweet, I can use some socks. So yeah, it's interesting that way. But yeah, it's been a little weird. I'm a little out of sorts today because I was going to film a battle report this morning, and it didn't happen because of my, I don't know, because of me mainly. I got off of work yesterday around lunch and rushed to the studio because I knew I had to get a bunch of stuff done in prep for this morning's bat rep with my friend Josh. We were going to play some Kill Team, and I was there till, I mean, I took a break and went and had dinner, but otherwise I was there till midnight, and at that point gave up. I bought these really nice, expensive lapel mics made by Sennheiser. They're like $900 a piece. I bought 2 of them. And when you spend that much on a lapel mic, you would think it would just kind of work out of the box. But I'm getting a weird hiss that I don't like, and there's just all kinds of issues. It's partially my fault for thinking that, like, the mic that I use now when I'm doing my normal Friday videos, there was a learning curve on getting it to work. There was a lot of trial and error, but it was several years ago, so I guess I've forgotten it. So it was a situation where I'm like, oh, I'll just plug all this stuff in and it'll work great, and that's not the case. So between that, the lighting I got sorted, so that's not too bad. And then my plan is to use a gimbal. So I've got a DJI Ronin S gimbal, which is their kind of newest sort of, not giant two-handed gimbal, but like one-handed, but still pretty massive. It's going to give me a big a big forearm like Popeye, but just on one arm holding that gimbal. And one of the big benefits of it is it has a dial on it for pulling focus. So when I'm shooting like models, instead of having to worry about the autofocus on the camera doing its job, which frankly the GH5 does not do great autofocus in video. It's amazing, and all the Lumix cameras are amazing in photo, but you generally just manual focus when you're going to do video. So I'm like, well, this is cool. I'll just be able to turn the thing on the dial, and it's supposed to work with it. Like the GH5 was the first camera that's supposed to work with that that gimbal, and you plug in a wire and all that stuff, and could not get them to talk to each other. Just refused, and then they're like, oh, well, maybe if you update this firmware, and if you do this and that and all this junk, and like it's 11:30 at night, and I don't have any internet at the stupid studio, and I'm just like, so I sent a message to the guy who's going to be coming, and I'm like, we're going to have to reschedule. I've got a bunch of technical crap I got to get fixed. So that's kind of where I'm at, but it's put me in a bit of a mood. So yeah, that's it'll be fine though. So yeah, where are we at? Black's Cleric asks, what are you currently painting, Uncle Adam? Well, I just got done painting a bunch of terrain for the battle report, and you saw some of it in Friday's video, some buildings and things like that. Those 2 buildings that I was holding up, I had just finished both of those. Otherwise, I think the next thing I'm going to do is probably go back and try to finish building. I'm trying to build some Necron flayed ones from scratch, and because I don't like the flayed one models, so I'm making them out of Necron warriors and getting rid of the gun and trying to give them improvised like close combat weapons. And so after I get those, I'm only gonna do 3 of them. So after I get I've got 2 of them basically done, but one I might change. And then after that, I will probably paint them. But I've got lots of stuff to paint. I do want to get some knolls done from Frostgrave. I want to get some of those built and painted for Ranges Shadowdeep, and because there's a lot of missions that you can use knolls and things like that. So, and they're great models. They basically look like hyenas that are bipeds. They're just really, really well done. I think well sculpted, and I've seen lots of pictures online. So it's, yeah, definitely. Joseph says, greetings from Savannah, Georgia. We almost had a white Christmas, only about 15 degrees too warm. Well, yeah, that will be problematic. VJ Morph says, lapel mics can be really hard to work with. I used to do live AV teching for corp events. Yeah, I think that they're digital. Everything seems to be connecting just fine, easy, great. But then you put I'm used to cheap lapel mics, I guess, where touching anywhere on the cable doesn't immediately make noise in the, in the thing. So then I read up a bunch about how you got to kind of tape down the cable on the inside of the shirt and do all that kind of stuff, which is fine. I'll go that direction. But even when I just was recording and checking levels, when I came home, plugged it into the computer, and I get this weird baseline hiss, which I've got to now try to figure out. If you go way back and watch my earliest videos, I took a cheap lapel mic, like a $25 lapel mic, not a wireless one, but a wired one, and just plugged it into my camera. And that was better than a lot of people were doing, because a lot of people were just doing on-camera sound, which is almost always terrible. So I was doing that, but there was a hiss because cameras just always seem to add a hiss. So the thing that I've got for this GH5, it's this doohickey that goes up on the flash mount, and it's made by Panasonic, and it's a sound module that has 2 XLR plugs, which are these big, it's like the kinds that you see on stage mics that go in the bottom. So it's got 2 XLR plugs. Just the add-on costs like $400. It's got all kinds of dials and gain and this and that and levels and stuff built into it. All kinds of things you can mess with. So I'm like, this should work great, and it is plug and play. But now I'm wondering if it's what's adding the hiss. So I need to go back and plug my lapel mics into one of my regular digital recorders and then listen to that. And if there's no hiss, then I know I just can't ever plug an actual microphone into an actual camera, because it will always suck. So far I have found it's generally always the best to plug microphones into an external recorder if you want really clean sound. And the videos that you watch me do on Fridays, that's a boom mic above my head. Sometimes it sneaks down just a little bit into the frame, but it's black, so you don't really see it as well. But it is plugged via XLR into a digital recorder, and then later on I have to sync that sound with the sound that the camera records, which sounds terrible, but still, I clap 3 times at the beginning, and it makes 3 peaks, and then on both the good audio and the camera audio, and then I can line them up, and it's a whole thing. Anyway, it takes extra time. I would love it if the good audio would just be attached directly to the video, so when I go to edit, everything's cool and it saves me a step. But I'm thinking that maybe that's not the case. So we're good. Anyway, long story short, and I hate to bore you guys all with technical details, but it didn't happen. Bat Rep didn't happen today because of all these technical details, and I want to keep working on it. I'm going to have a couple of days free between now and Thursday of next week that are not me swamped with relatives and Christmas shenanigans. So hopefully I'll be able to go do a bunch of testing in the studio and try to see if I can track down the issues and figure that out, and also update the firmware on the GH5, update the firmware on the gimbal, see if I can get those 2 things talking to each other. I just left it last minute, but it's just because I've been swamped between work and a lot of other stuff. Also, the room is kind of noisy. The room that I'm going to be doing the battle reports in is only 9 by 12, and it's got a hardwood floor and not much of anything on the walls. So I need to get a rug in there to help kind of deaden that noise a little bit. I need to probably put some stuff on the walls and things like that, just to make it also visually more interesting too. So yeah, all these different things, which I thought I had more time for, and I'm generally pretty good about keeping my time, but I just completely estimated how long it was going to take to get this all dialed in. So yeah, that's where that's at. Let me see. I'm going to stop trying to talk about that junk right now. Bastion asks, did you have an eye-opening moment considering painting or painting products in 2018? For me, it has been getting into airbrushing and using heavy body acrylic artist white while using a brush. I haven't used that kind of stuff for white. I've got soft body black. I've got a tube of soft body black acrylic, normal artist pigment, for painting on canvases and junk. I've got that somewhere, and I've used it more as a glaze, but I've never used the white stuff. That's interesting. Randall says no need to stress. I appreciate it. I do. Yeah. VJ Morph says, I've always found that the Shure belt packs give a cleaner sound than the Sennheisers. Yeah, well, that's... Shure doesn't sell on Amazon, and so I was like, well, you know, and these were nice. I mean, they work great, and the receiver part, instead of being another pack that you have to attach to the camera, is just this digital dongle that has like XLR and then a thing, and you just plug it in there, and it takes up very little space, runs on phantom power. It's great. I just got to figure out how to do it best. Yeah, again, I shouldn't just have taken it and decided, oh, I'll just first try will be, I mean, almost first try will be like, you know, getting things recorded, but I'm getting there. VJ Morph says, great to see the terrain table panels you were talking about painting on the new video. Yeah, they turned out really well. I should probably still try to spray them to kind of, you know, varnish them and everything like that. But I didn't get that chance to get that done, so. Joseph says, the best laid plans of mice, men, and minions. That's a very good point. Absolutely. Randall asks, what causes these sorts of problems? Electrical issues? To be fair, I did not test with the lights off. Because at work, we were trying to record something one time, and we kept getting this weird hum, and then we turned off the fluorescent lighting, and the hum went away. Now, I don't have any fluorescent lighting in that room. It's LED lights, but I'll test that, though, too. Michael Strange says, can only listen today as I'm cleaning in advance of the invading hordes of family for the holidays. Man, no, we're not having anybody for Christmas at our place, which is great. We had my wife's sister here for Thanksgiving, so there was a bunch of cleaning that had to go on before that. But we might be having some sort of shindig maybe on Christmas, or not Christmas Eve, sorry, New Year's Eve. So it's not nailed down yet, but if we do that, then there'll be a bunch of prep for that, so not too bad. Michael Strange says, Merry Christmas, sir. Thanks for all you do for the community. I nominated you as a hobby hero in GW's recent call for nominations. Know you deserve it tenfold. Well, I appreciate that. Thank you very much. I'd forgotten they were doing that again this year, because last year, I think, was the first year on that thing. So it was interesting that I didn't recognize any of the names when they finally came out with the list. I'm like, I don't know any of those people. So, I mean, that's probably part of... I don't know if it's more the competitive, like, organized play folks that are in on that. I'm not sure how that's, like, what that's about, but... yeah, we'll see how that works out. BJ Morph says, yeah, I would be surprised if the lapel base stations are generating the hiss, far more likely the sound module in the cam. And that's my concern, especially since I bought it and then was like, I mean, that's what I thought it was for, is the whole point. If it adds in a hiss or whatever, then it's a waste of time, and then I'll try to sell it on eBay. Because, yeah, it was a heck of a hiss. What else have we got? Michael Strange, nothing boring about tech stuff. Well, to you and I, potentially, but not to everybody. Black's Cleric says, never used to notice the poor sound of the earlier videos, to be honest, until Adam started mentioning it recently. Yeah, that's just, you know, like I said, literally the mic that I used back in the day was a $25 Amazon lapel mic that you just clipped on, and then, like, not halfway, but a certain way, maybe a foot or two away from the mic itself, was like a little bump in the cord, just like a little cylinder, and you unscrewed it, and then you put watch batteries in it, like those little tiny button batteries. You put like 2 of those in there, and it was an on-off switch. And God help you if, like, you got done recording and forgot to turn it off, because then when you come back, the batteries would be dead. So that sucked. But then it just went to a normal little, like, 3.5 millimeter normal headphone type jack, and just plugged it into the camera. And it sounded a lot better than onboard, you know, sound, but there was a bit of a hiss, you know, and stuff like that. And that's just cameras. People are always like, well, I was going to get this camera, but it's really, you know, it doesn't have a you know, mic in plug or anything like that. And it's just, I've still yet on a normal kind of SLR or mirrorless camera or whatever, rarely ever found one that works really well and doesn't have a little bit of a hiss. You know, in some situations you can take the hiss out. I tried that actually earlier when I was messing with the files from last night, and I could take the hiss out when I wasn't talking. You know, you drop it out with something called a noise gate. But as soon as I would start talking, you would hear me talking and a hiss in the background, which is not helpful. So, yeah, anyway, it's just something for me to bang on a little bit until I can figure it out. Michael Strange says, my dad was a real-world warrior, not into hobby wargaming, although he did suffer through a game of Zombicide Black Plague once. Well, that's good. It's nice of them to kind of help out with, you know, your thing. BG Morph says, take as long as you need on the bat reps, Adam. Best get them right than to do them fast. Yeah, I mean, I honestly kind of feel that same way. If I was just going to do them real super quick, I could have just bought a handy cam and shot a bunch of them, 2 years ago. But I want them to be a little bit better, so that's why I'm working on that. Michael Strange says, getting a compressor in the new year. Cash saved up, but can't nail down the model yet. I am going to be doing an upcoming video, so here's, behind the scenes a little bit. I'm going to be doing an upcoming video about, there's a kit on Amazon that is 3 airbrushes and a compressor for $90. And I'm just trying to figure out if that's actually useful and good. So I bought it, and it came, I don't know, last week or 2 weeks ago. And so I'm going to be doing a video sometime in 2019, hopefully earlier part of 2019, talking about, is it actually a good deal? Do you want to spend less versus more? Just trying to compare and contrast. And I don't want to say I'm going to review it, but I'm going to but I'm not going to be reviewing it specifically. I'm going to be talking about like what you're looking for in a good compressor versus a bad compressor, that kind of stuff. But I'm going to have this, but it's sitting in the basement. Just the fact that it's a compressor and 3 airbrushes for $90, I was like, that's weird. 2 of them are gravity and one's a siphon. And I think the siphon's got the biggest needle, with the widest kind of spray. And then there's a kind of a mid-range with a bigger gravity cup. And then there's one that's a real fine needle that has a really small cup. It's 3 separate brushes, and then the hose and all that junk. So I was like, it's very interesting to me. So I was like, well, I'll check that out. And I don't know that I'm going to make that into a series where I buy random hobby junk on Amazon to see if it's actually good or not. I kind of don't want to do that. But yeah, I think that I'm going to give that a try and see how that works out. Let's see here. Joseph. Oh, no, not the damn chat thingy. Joseph says, I don't know if it translates to audio equipment, but I have noticed that when you get into high-end electronics, there are so many things that you can adjust that you end up running down too many variables. Yeah, that's also a thing, too. Like, I was even doing tests last night where I was like, okay, I'm going to turn low-pass filter to this, and I'm going to do this. And then I was saying it as I was doing it so that I could go back and watch the video and go, oh, that made it worse or that made it better. So it's going to take some trial and error, just as those kind of things do. Mr. Mendeleev says, hello, everyone. Hello, Mr. Mendeleev. How you doing? Useful G, first of all, hello, first Irregulars in a while. Good to be back. We're glad to have you back, Useful G. Gary Doyle says, no rush for bat reps as long as you get to listen. As long as I get to listen to you waffle, I'm good. Well, that's good to hear. Ex-Cleric asks, what games minis are you looking forward to in the new year, Uncle Adam? That's a good question. I mean, I don't know of like anything new coming out that I'm necessarily, chomping at the bit for. Champing at the bit? Might be champing it a bit, but I am. Let's see, things I've got going on though coming up in the new year is I have tentatively said yes, I'm going to be doing the Escalation League at my local store. So basically, what that does is that you start out and you have to build like a 500 point 40K list and paint it. And then there's like you have to play a game at some point during, I think, January. And then the next month you have to add like another 250 points or something like that to it. And you keep doing that. And then, I don't know, then profit. I'm not sure exactly what the outcome is other than you just get stuff painted. I mean, the store does it because they want you to come in and buy stuff, and that's fine. And they're, there's some prizes, I think, maybe. I'm basically using it just as a stick to some degree to get me to I have 2,000 points of Primaris Marines predominantly, all built and textured and shoulder pad icons, 3D molded and all that jazz, ready to go. So at least I don't have to build stuff. I'll just be painting it. And I asked the guy, because normally the idea is that you buy stuff from the store, you paint it and all that stuff. Now, I didn't buy all of this stuff at the store. Some of this stuff was because GW sent me the 8th edition starter box, and that's where a lot of this, but the Redemptor Dreadnought I bought from the store, the Repulsor tank, Graf tank I bought from the store. I want to say that the Apothecary, stuff like that I bought from him. So and we've known each other for a long time, so he's like, yeah, that's fine, whatever. But I'm also not building it and painting it and getting ready for the games. It's already built, so I'm just basically painting it and getting ready for the games, which is fine. But yeah, so that's a big thing. Well, not a big thing, but it's a good size thing that's going to be coming up for me in regular hobby. But I've also got more terrain that I want to get done. I've got some more models I want to get done. Some Shadespire stuff too, I think. That'll be fun. But yeah, that's kind of where that's at. I do want to make sure that I've got enough terrain for that Rangers of Shadow Deep. Make sure that I've got, you know, decent stuff to be able to put together for that too. So I've got a lot of different things going on. I'm never without things to paint. You know what I mean? So. Michael Strange says, I missed the What is Santa Bringing live stream. I snuck a peek at my wish list. I'm getting a ton of GW terrain, more Thousand Suns, and a Lego Voltron. Well, that's fun. Hence the need for an airbrush compressor. Pile of shame is growing exponentially. Airbrush helps with that, honestly, especially with terrain. Definitely. So that's really helpful, I think. Joseph says, oh, last time you had mentioned batting around the idea of Discord. We never got around to it, so here's a reminder if you want to. Yes. So I have a server set up, technically. I don't have anything on this machine to figure out where it is. I don't know how to share it. But I need to, one of the things on my list to do, and I'm going to hopefully try to get it done during the holidays, is I want to connect. There's a way that you can connect Patreon to Discord so that there's benefits to you guys, the patrons, when you go onto my Discord, and then you get like a special badge or special privileges, or I don't know what exactly. And I got to look into that a little bit more. I started reading it at work a couple days back, and then got sidetracked by having to do a bunch of design stuff, which is my job. So it's fine. But yeah, that is coming actually pretty soon. Actually, I had moderator Matt, because he uses Discord more than I do. I had him hop onto it, and when somebody finally told me it's basically kind of Slack, but it has better video and better audio if you want to use it, but otherwise it's basically Slack, then it made a hell of a lot more sense to me, because we use Slack at work. For those of you that don't use Slack, it's kind of like Discord, except that it's shittier, frankly, which is astounding because it's made by tech people for tech people, and it is, from the guys that I talk to at work that are developers, like, yeah, the code is broken and janky. And they've said actually that Discord is way better. The problem is that if you are working with clients and you go, oh, we don't use Slack, we use Discord, they're not going to take you very seriously, because they're going to think you're all a bunch of gamers instead of business people. But it works way better. So anyway, long story short, we don't care because we're gamers, and that's fine by us. So yeah, that's coming. I've got some help from moderator Matt and some other people, and I will reach out on the Patreon as well if I get stuck and I've got other questions. Speaking of reaching out on Patreon, I want to thank everybody who took screenshots from the Teespring and sent them to me and all that kind of stuff. I'm going to reach out to a couple of you and ask some further backup questions. The whole thing came from probably, I don't know, 2 or 3 live shows, every other Sunday shows ago. A guy was basically saying that he was in Australia and he was trying to order the new punk rock shirt, and the shipping was crazy. And so I was like, well, that's weird, because the punk rock shirt, so if you look at the store, there was always the US version and the EU version. So you had to pick which one you were going to buy depending on where you lived, which was okay, clunky, but okay. Well, then Teespring's like, hey, we've got a new type of setting where if you say this is a global product, then we will determine whether it needs to be made in the United States or in the EU, and then it'll be great. And that seems to work for everybody except for Australia. Australia, when you're in Australia and you say, I want to buy a shirt, it defaults to the United States. And I would think it would be better to default to the EU. So probably you, VJ Morph, and a couple other people, I'm going to maybe shoot you guys an email, probably even still today, hopefully, saying, hey, can you just do this and just do another screenshot? And then, because if that's the case, then I'm going to go back to Teespring and go, look, Australia's getting screwed on this. And it should, like, if buying an EU shirt, one of the current shirts is already on there that says an EU shirt. If you go to there and say, I want to buy this shirt, and you live in Australia, and it says, okay, shipping is this, and it's cheaper than ordering the same shirt from the United States, which I'd assume it would be, but whatever, then Teespring needs to fix it, in my opinion. So Anyway, that's kind of where that all came from. Is it's because of this new type of classification. They tried to make it simpler and said, oh, now you can just set it as global and we'll figure it out. But when I was on chat with them saying, so how does this exactly work? The woman didn't really have any good answers for me. So that's why I turned to you guys, because I know you guys are smart. And so, yeah, I again want to say thanks to everybody who sent me screenshots and helped me out with that. That was very, very helpful. It seems as if pretty much most places it seems to work. But like I said, it was weird about Australia. And when I was chatting with the person from Teespring, she kept saying, well, do you know if that Australian person was on a VPN? And I'm like, they didn't mention it. No, I don't know. I mean, I understand that there are people that use VPNs so that they can be outside of America, let's say, to make it look like they're inside of America so they can watch American Netflix or whatever, that kind of stuff. And potentially other things. There's probably other reasons why you would want to spoof to some degree where you are. I don't know if that's what they run into a lot over at Teespring. I don't know, but she kept bringing it up. It's kind of like back in the day when you would contact GW because your Finecast was all janky, and the first thing they would say is like, well, do you have some liquid green stuff? And you're like, that doesn't answer the question. Anyway, so same kind of thing. Let me see. Boop, boop, ba-doo. So yes, that's Discord and that's Teespring. So we got that. Kelly says, how do everybody? There we got Kelly in the chat. That's cool. Everybody says hi there. Again, I'm a bit behind because I've been yammering. People talking about getting the new Noise Marine. It's a cool sculpt, but I mean, there's only one, right? So if you're going to put it in your army, I always thought, and I haven't looked, to be fair, I guess at a Chaos Codex in a little while, but I always thought the Noise Marines were a squad. So if you only have one, I don't know, like you're just going to have a bunch of guys that look exactly the same if you buy them, but I don't know. It was interesting. It's a cool sculpt, but maybe, I don't know if they've turned him into like a champion or something like that you can do, but I thought that was interesting. Whoop. Let me see here. Boop, boop. Scrolling. New Noise Marine. Hey, Adam, says Kelly. Did you see my frosted glass results for varnishing on the TM Facebook page? Works very well. I did. Yeah, that does look really good. And I'm looking forward to the weather not sucking, hopefully, so that I can do some tests myself. I also am looking forward to trying to figure out where I put that bottle of Ultramatte varnish from AK Interactive. It was on the dining room table, and then Thanksgiving came and Emily's sister was staying with us, and so I cleaned most of everything off of the dining room table, and then I think I put it someplace in the basement. I'm not sure where yet. I have a general idea, but I haven't looked hard. So, yeah, I want to be able to eventually, and again, this is, I don't want to say a pipe dream, but it's one of those things that gets pushed off a lot. I would love to do a great, like a testing video, and I've talked about this in the past, where I take a bunch of like, whatever, maybe Army men, maybe just, Assault on Black Reach, normal Space Marine push fit guys, paint them all the same color, hit them all with the same amount of gloss coat, and then compare dull coat, the frosted glass stuff, and like Ultramatte from AK Interactive, and see which one works best. Make a video out of it. Why not? So yeah, yeah, the stuff that you posted did look real nice. What else? VJ Morph says, saw a YouTube video the other day about the Iowata Neo. It's the exact same airbrush as the cheap Blur Foam airbrush that comes with the Amazon kits. I've got a Neo, and I just use it for varnish, and it's fine. It works fine for varnish. I don't, the only reason I use it is because I don't, there's a part of me that's like, I kind of don't want to run varnish through my normal brush, so I just run it through a separate brush, and you have to unscrew the thing and all that stuff, but it's not that big of a deal. I mean, you have to unscrew the thing anyway when you clean it, so it's not, it's not that big of a deal. But I mean, in the same situation, you could probably easily use a cheap Amazon brush and then use that as your varnish brush, and then maybe have a better brush for like a Badger or an Iowata or whatever, and use that for your painting and highlighting and all that jazz. That's totally up to you. I just bought the Neo at the time because I had the 40% off coupon or whatever at Hobby Lobby, and I always love to use that coupon. Let's see here. Useful G says Rob Paints Minis has a good video on airbrushes, all part of my campaign to get one for next year. I gotta tell you, man, I'm a big fan of airbrushing. Just, I mean, like terrain, it's great. Just priming, it's great. I still, personally, I do, especially for terrain, I generally prefer to prime with a rattle can because and I use then the Krylon stuff because I know it's got that fusion technology that sticks to plastic, and then I know I'm not going to flake paint off of my terrain through storage and moving it around and stuff like that. With models, it's not as big of a deal. I will absolutely use and feel perfectly good about using airbrush primer on my models. But on my terrain, if I can, I would like to spray it, with rattle cans so that I know that it's going to stick better. But in a pinch, I mean, there's no reason not to just use airbrush. You just have to be maybe a little bit more careful with it long term. It's like, honestly, a lot of it comes from going to the shop and seeing terrain that has been beat up because it's been there for 5 years and it's a little beat up and paint's flaked off. But that's just from people being jerks with it to some degree. Whereas with my own terrain, I treat it quite nicely, thank you. So yeah. Is it worth getting an expensive airbrush setup if I'm only going to be doing priming and terrain? That's what I'm going to find out. I mean, I don't know, honestly. Like when I first started, I used a really cheap compressor from the hardware store. And it wasn't even an airbrush compressor. It was like a normal air compressor that you would use in your garage for, I don't know, pumping up tires or whatever. It was like $60, had a big red 2-gallon tank, I think, and then the compressor on it. It was crazy noisy. I'm not going to lie. It was very noisy, but it worked just fine. And then I just used a decent airbrush. I used the Iwata that I have today, and that was fine until, well, number one, when it would kick in to refill the tank, it was very jarring, and it startled me and frankly startled the cats upstairs. But the other thing is that eventually it stopped working. It just kind of over time, it just didn't, I don't know what happened. I got a bad one or something like that. It stopped working. So that's when I switched and bought a real airbrush compressor. But like an inexpensive airbrush compressor, that's what I'm checking out with this Amazon kit that I bought, hopefully. So yeah. What else have we got here? I didn't pre-order, but woke up yesterday morning and decided on the spot I really wanted one, so I raced to the local store before they sold out. Talking about the Noise Marines. Yeah, I'd heard they were selling out too, which I thought was kind of strange. VJ Morph says, yeah, that Iwata Neo video was a Rob Paints Minis one. Ernie Jr. Hey, Ernie. Just picked up one of those compressor kits for my wife to add to her baking hobby for Christmas. If I like how it works, I'll get one for myself. That's a very good idea. Be like, hey, look, honey, I got you this. And if it works real well, you'd be like, I'm going to get one too. Because you won't be able to borrow, probably. That's a lot of, there'll be some time when you want to use it and she wants to use it, and then it's a thing. Michael Strange says, everybody's thoughts on the new Noise Marine sculpt. It may define my limit of bombastic ridiculousness. Bombastic ridiculousness is a great couple of words to put together. I'm going to tell you right there. I've only really ever seen just the standard pictures. I haven't seen it up close or anything like that. But I don't know. I've never been a Noise Marine guy. I've always just thought they were like... It's one of those things that they did back in the day when they were still kind of goofy as a company. And they're like, wouldn't it be cool if these guys played guitars and the guitars like shot sonic stuff and it killed people or whatever, and they were sitting around and having a good time because they were gamers and stuff, and that's great. And that's what you expect from early GW, but it was sort of weird. I mean, I get why they did it because there's a lot of people that are obviously nostalgic about it and all that kind of stuff. But I don't know. For me, I was always like a lot of that. I don't know. It's the whole concept of Warhammer 40,000 is crazy and goofy, so why I draw the line at Noise Marines, I don't know, but I kind of just am like, well, yeah, I'm just not, I don't know. But, I'm glad that other people are enjoying it, and it's nice that they're kind of giving some love to a model that there hasn't been a reproduction of in a really, really long time. So, but I am a little surprised still that it's like not like a, like, why didn't they just make a, well, I mean, it would be very expensive to make an entire box as far as making the sculpts and the molds. But if people like them this much, maybe this is a test, and they're going to be like, well, this sold out really quickly, and then they'll actually make a unit of Noise Marines in the future. Hard to say. I mean, I feel like new Chaos is coming. I mean, they've already kind of said some new Black Legion stuff is coming, but yeah, we'll see. What else have we got? Joseph says, I may never game with the Noise Marine, but I will definitely get one to paint. Emily says, it's like Discord, but shittier. Hubby and I started just cracking up. Yeah, it's just... We complain about Slack at work all the time, but it's what you use, sadly. Then it jumped forward. Jesse Daniels says, for me, painting project is to paint drop zone resistance and drop fleet UCM. Yeah, those are interesting little ships. I've never tried to paint anything quite like that scale, so it's got to be a different set of techniques to some degree. I mean, well, I take that back. I painted Battletech years and years and years ago, but I was using enamels and it's the whole thing, so it's not the great way to go. VJ Morph says probably only ever use his Noise Marine and Kill Team. Yeah, that'd be kind of cool. I could see that benefit. Let's see here. VJ Morph says, yeah, on the Teespring thing, Adam, when I submitted my screenshot, the shipping seemed high compared to what I paid when I got my other t-shirts, so I selected EU with them. So yeah, that's what I want to test and see if that's what's going on. VJ Morph says, I use a VPN, but I switched it off for the test as per your request. Aha, well, see, then she was not wrong by saying, well, were they using a VPN? Evidently, that's a thing. I've never used one except for work. Like my old job, we had a VPN if I brought my laptop home, but yeah. Mac the Maker asks, how's the Facebook group behaving lately? I was just thinking about that this morning. It's been behaving pretty well the last several, maybe the last week. It's been behaving, and I'm knocking on wood, it's been behaving okay. So that's good. I feel like, I don't know. I feel like maybe people had to get it out of their system. I feel like maybe people left that were problematic. Because it was sitting at, like when you look at it on the app, it doesn't give you the full, in one of the views that I use quite a bit. Like whenever I get a report that says, hey, this thing is in these, and I have to go look at it, it has this sort of key progress or key performance indicator little thing across the top of that screen, and it tells you how many people and this and that and the other thing. And so it was saying it was 14.3K members. And then after all that kerfuffle, about a week later, I noticed it was 14.2. So at least some people left. And it was probably, to be perfectly frank, people on both sides, people who were against this crap and people who were also for it, who were like, well, I don't like that group anymore because he doesn't let me post pictures of racist crap or whatever. And then, you know, they left. And then the people who were like, this group is becoming toxic and I can't stand it and I'm going to leave. So some people left. It is what it is. I did also change the group to closed. So when I first set it up, not thinking too many people were going to come, I tried to make it as open as possible because I felt like, honestly, I didn't want to have to go through and okay every single person. So there's that. But when you set the group to open, I still have to okay people, or somebody has to okay them, but other people can see into the group and see what's going on. They just can't post unless they're a member. The new closed version now, same thing. I have to okay everybody who comes in, and that's fine. But now if you're not a member of the group, you can't see stuff. So one of the benefits to some degree from some people have said that now if they share something or like something or whatever, it doesn't show up into their feed so their friends don't know that they paint little dollies, which is fine. I don't have a problem with my friends knowing that I do it, but other people, you know, have different thoughts about that whole thing, and that's fine. And again, these are things that I guess I didn't 100% understand when I first set the group up. It was literally just kind of like, oh, that might be a good idea, and I cranked it out, and then there it is, and now there's 14,000 plus people in there. Many of which, by the way, don't even know what Tabletop Minions is, which is fine. But it's funny when people are like talking about like the admin or whatever, that kind of stuff, and then other people are like, "Well, it's this guy, and he's got the YouTube channel," and they're like, "Yeah, I don't know what you're talking about." And it's just, I'm like, how did you people find this? But I guess there was a lot of people, and it just sort of snowballs, which is fine. But yeah. So right now, seems to be going better. I think the closed thing's going to help a bit. It hasn't gotten shut down again like it did before, so that's nice. I appreciate that. So yeah, that's kind of where that's at right now. Been not too bad. Let's see. VJ Morph says, I bought it more because I had the original many years ago, talking with the Noise Marine again, but never got around to painting it before I got out of the hobby. Let me see here. Joseph asks, when you prime with an airbrush, do you thin it or just run a larger diameter needle and higher pressure? I generally, when I'm priming, I just use the same, I just use my normal Iwata clips. I don't change the needle or anything like that, and I don't even thin it. I use, what the heck do I use? Oh, I use Vallejo surface primer, their airbrush primer. I have noticed that white has a tendency to dry on the tip a little bit more, but that's because the pigments are bigger. I mean, that makes sense. But the black, if I'm priming with black, which I frequently prime with black, I've never had an issue. It works out real fine. I've also used other colors, like they've got a bone color from Vallejo for their surface primer. They've got there's a bone color. There's a olive drabish kind of like military type color I've used a bunch. I do have a bunch of they call it ultramarine blue, that I'll be using for my Primaris Force, and I have some of the red primer as well that I'm going to use when I get to my Adeptus Mechanicus kill team. So yeah, it's I've had real good luck with this stuff, and I know a lot of people also like Stynylrez from Badger, and that's fine too. So either way, pretty much. But yeah, I don't thin it, and I don't generally run a higher pressure. I keep it the same pressure. Seems to work pretty well. Kelly says, Adam, I varnished on a cold, wet day with quick sprays, then quickly brought them back in. Worked like a charm. Looking forward to trying the AK stuff in the airbrush, but I can't find anywhere cheap. Yeah, I think I bought my AK Interactive Ultramat on eBay, actually. Because if you order it from them, it's like really cheap, like per bottle. Like the bottle is like $6, but it's like $15 or $20 to ship it, because I think it's coming from Spain. So I bought it. I paid probably $12 or $13 for the bottle, but the shipping was like $4 because I bought it from a shop, I think in America somewhere, but it was on eBay. So I would tell you to take a look on eBay if you can find it. But VJ Morph says, I got the AK stuff ready to test. Now I just need to finish painting something, so I have a need to varnish. That makes sense. Thanos73, hey Thanos, says, got an Iwata Neo for 50% off pre-Black Friday and an Iwata Ninja Jet compressor. I've seen that at the store, but I've never used one. For 60% off on Black Friday at Michael's. Love it. Oh, that's a pretty good deal. That's a really good deal. Yeah, let me know about that Ninja Jet compressor, because I don't use an Iwata compressor. I use a Sparmax TC2000, which was just what they had at Hobby Lobby, and I was like, well, that's the expensive one. Like, they had like 2 or 3 different Sparmax ones, and I'm like, that one's the most expensive, and I can get it for 40% off, so I'm going to pull the trigger. And it worked out well. I like that compressor quite a bit, but I've been interested in some of the Iwata compressors. I've never used any. VJ Morph says, love me some goofy GW, better than those neckbeards that take everything too seriously, in my opinion. I agree. I mean, I don't take the game seriously, like, oh, well, no, this is very serious because it's the lore and all that kind of stuff, or you can't change things because it makes me uncomfortable, or whatever. It's not like that. It's just I don't know, there's parts of me sometimes where, like, the cartoony stuff just sort of, cartoony is the wrong word too. I don't know. Some of it just is like, it's just not quite, I don't know. There's something about it that, like, because I like to keep, like, let's say all my, hey Diesel, all my, what do you call them? Like normal Primaris guys, they're not exactly serious, they're not real military, but they're more serious than something kind of goofy and wacky. And so, yeah, I don't know. I can't necessarily put it properly into words, but that's where that's at. Let me see. Simon Key, hey Simon, says next should be a redo of the Goth Rocker Band for the Orcs. Yeah, that'd be interesting too. I've been working with one of my friends and coworkers at where I work at Milcan, and he's getting into miniatures, and he's bought his first 40K miniatures. He bought the Kill Team box for the Orcs, where you get 5 Ludas/Burnas and some terrain and stuff and all that whatnot. So he bought that, and what else did he buy? He bought a box of Gretchens. And I bought a box of Gretchens recently too, because I'm like, I kind of just want to put these guys into my kill team. And actually, I have the same box he does of the Burnas/Ludas. And then I have the boys that came in the starter box for Shadow War Armageddon. So I'm set and ready to go. And so he's going to buy a box of boys eventually too. But yeah, I've been kind of teaching him things, what I know of. And I don't know, I've never played Orcs before or even painted them, but I do know stuff just from being in, paying attention to junk. More than he has, because I've been doing it longer. But so I've been trying to teach him things a little bit about Orcs and stuff like that and everything. So yeah, it's gonna be very interesting to see like what our takes on the Orcs are gonna be in comparison to each other and everything. So yeah, that'll be interesting. And I think I just found there's a band that was doing Orc rock that would come to Adepticon. I think they were there again this past year or earlier this year. They'll dress like orcs and then play music or whatever, and it's a goth rock band or whatever. And I swear to God, one of them gave me not a Blu-ray, a CD, and I found it just recently in the basement, but I haven't listened to it, I don't think. Oh my goodness. What else have we got here? Okay, Speaking of neckbeards, the GW store owner and I were chatting today. 2 things I learned from the inside. Ooh, yes, that's definitely, this will be fun. Number 1, new Keeper of Secrets within the next 3 months. Keeper of Secrets. Oh, yeah, okay, yeah. That's, Zinch? Zinch or Slanesh? I know way more about Khorne and Nurgle than I do about the other 2, so yeah, but gotcha. Okay, cool. And number 2, GW hates Arch Warhammer and wishes they could get him to stop writing on their IP. I don't know a ton about Arch Warhammer. I don't watch any of it. But I do know that from what I've been told, he's problematic. And I don't know, years ago, there was a channel, and I don't know if it was Arch Warhammer, but somebody... So for those of you who have ever watched Andy 2D6, his name is Andy, and he's got a channel. It's called Andy 2D6, and he mostly talks about Age of Sigmar, Kings of War. He's more of a fantasy guy. He lives over in the UK. Super nice guy. He and I have met in person a couple of times. He came over to Adepticon twice, and we got to hang out and chit-chat and stuff. I think I don't know how many subscribers he's got currently. I don't know, maybe 3,000-4,000 or something like that. Super nice guy. He used to have a show that he did, a live show he did every week called the Andy and Rem Show. It was him and this other guy, Remington Steele, who's also a super nice guy. Him I've not met in person, but we've talked on the phone a couple of times. Anyway, so Andy made a video about social anxiety and things like that and how it relates to wargaming and whatnot. And some channel downloaded his video and then played it back, like would play like a bit of what he was saying, like pause it, and then this guy, who wouldn't put his own face on screen like Andy did, then just would like make fun of the things that Andy was saying and like all this kind of shit. And it really, really, really rubbed me the wrong way. But this was like 5 years ago, and for some reason, I thought it was Arch Warhammer, but it might not have been. And I have frankly not tried to look, but I do know that a lot of people are unhappy with some of the ways that he kind of portrays the hobby and stuff like that. And I know he's popular and his lore videos get zillions and zillions of views, and that's great, but I can understand why GW would be like, this is not the face, well, lack of a face, frankly, that we want on our writing RIP, as you said there, RIP? Writing on our IP, intellectual property. So yeah, I don't know. I don't want to get involved. I don't want to make there's no beef. I've never met the guy. I don't know anything about him. Like I said, I know vaguely what he does, and I know that a lot of people seem to be angry with him. And I'm not into drama, so I'm not interested. But I don't know what a company like GW can do about that. You know what I mean? So yeah, it's a bummer. Let's see here. People talking about Mask. Oh, the old cartoon from the 80s with the, yeah, I had a friend who had like all those toys. I don't think I had any of them. I was more of my brother and I were more G.I. Joe boys. We would set them all up on the stairs. We had like carpeted stairs, and we would set up like these huge tableaus of like all these guys shooting each other and tanks and trucks and all this junk. And then we would take like the biggest vehicle we had and then just drive it down, you know, and then it would crush and like knock. We were using like, you know, books and stuff like that to make like embankments and platforms and stuff, and then we would just crash it all and it would all tumble down the stairs. My mom would be like, it would be like half an hour of setup and then like 3 seconds of way too much noise. But that was a lot of fun. We used to do that when we were kids. Ernie Jr. says, why are rule books so expensive? I ordered one for Gaslands and it was a little over 1/8 of an inch thick. Gaslands book is, I think, retails $20. It's all color on the inside, if I remember correctly. Do I have it near me? Oh, I do. Nope, that's not it. That's a blue book, same company. That's Rogue Stars. I don't know where Gaslands is. Maybe in the basement. But yeah, these blue books from Osprey are $20 generally, and yeah, color on the inside. That's not very colorful. There's some color right there. You can see some red and that kind of stuff. That guy's pretty colorful. But yeah, I mean, it's not just the printing cost. It's not like, well, the book cost, you know, $4 to make, so the book should cost $4. They got to pay artists. They got to pay the person who designed it and all that kind of stuff. I think, honestly, for Gaslands, for what you get, $20 is a pretty good deal. I don't know. That's the thing. Is it's not just the cost of the book. That's why people are always like, well, why do ebooks cost as much as the book, like the physical version? I don't think that an ebook should cost exactly the same. Although, like with GW with the codexes, their books will cost the same as a codex, but then there will be a lot of extra features. I think there's some real benefit sometimes to the ebooks for codex use, because it's really easy to just like click on a rule and then it pops up a box and tells you what it is. Whereas with the book, I go, what does this rule do again? And I have to flip through until I can find it. So that's a real benefit. But I don't think that just because an ebook costs very little to transmit or whatever, that it should be super almost free. You know, people still need to get paid for their work. So in my opinion, that's why Gaslands cost $20. And still, you know, in comparison, $20, that's a pretty good deal. Especially, again, it's full color on the inside. If it was black and white on the inside, well, then I get that. But yeah, that makes sense. What else have we got here? VJ Morph says, he, Dolly's forever. But yes, friends of mine who are not gamers, or at least not tabletop war gamers, have, and including my wife to some degree, who's not a tabletop war gamer, but is a gamer, have been referring to me and my friends as playing with dollies for quite some time, and it's fun. Emily says that Nick looks upset in the background. I think he wants his own t-shirt design. He does, and it's coming. I've worked up the text. I just need to shoot a decent picture of Nick, and I need a white background. So I don't have any. I'm astounded by this, but I don't have any poster board in the basement that is white. I have plenty of black poster board for some reason in the basement, and I don't have a single piece of poster board or like foam core or anything that's white, because I just need to put like a white thing behind him that's big enough, take a couple of pictures, and then I can kind of get going. Again, it's one of those things I'm going to try to do during this holiday break. I have this app on my phone from Google, Google Keep. I think it's Google Keep. Yes, Google Keep. And it's cool because it allows me to, like, I can have different lists, like to-do lists. And so I put in whenever I think of something, oh, I can get that done. I put it in here, and then when I'm done, I can check it, and then it like slides down and disappears and kind of goes into the checked off area. So that's kind of a little game I can play with myself. And Does design and deploy Nick Raimondo shirt for TM is on the list, so it's there. I didn't want to have a big sale before Christmas because I'm not a big holiday fan, so I didn't really want to buy into that whole thing. So I'm going to release some more shirts hopefully in January, and I don't know. Maybe I'll try to do a sale kind of a thing. I'll have like a code. The last time I tried to do a code through Teespring, everything sucked because there was no spot just to put in the promo code. You had to have the link, and then you had to click the right link, and then it automatically put it in the promo code, which was a pain because you had to do it for each shirt and not for the entire store. But I think they fixed that now because last time I ordered a shirt from them, it asked me for a promo code at the end. So I'm going to give it a try, and if it works, then I'll give that. I'll probably have a promo code for you Irregulars for sure, for certain. I don't know if I'll do a promo code for everybody, but I'll probably release some new shirts and maybe do a promo code. But I'm still trying to figure that one out. But yeah, that's where that's at. I hope that people have been happy with the shirts that they've gotten. I've liked all the shirts that I've gotten. Like I always make sure when I make a new design before I put it up on the store so people can buy it, I buy a copy myself so I can make sure the printing doesn't suck or there's not weird things going on and all that stuff. So I've been pretty happy with everything they've done. Like the product that Teespring puts out, I've been super happy with. The website and the support, not so great. And I potentially would have gone to somebody else, but then they partnered with them with YouTube. So now there's Tabletop Minions merch like below the window you're probably watching this in, and that's kind of nice. That's helpful. I don't know for sure that it is necessarily translated to higher sales, but I think over time it probably will. I wish I could control the window. It has a tendency to just show, like, here's the stuff that's selling best, and I'm like, well, that's cool. I kind of wish I could go in there and, it's a thing. I wish I could go in there and say, just show this one design. You don't need to show this shirt in men's and women's and premium and this, because then it takes up 4 slots with the same design. I wish I could go, here's this design, here's that design. But I'm not big enough to be able to do that yet. If I was big enough or whatever, sold enough shirts, then not only could I have more control over that little shelf, I found this out by asking actually over there, but I could also, like, the pictures that I had my friend Mary take of me in the new punk rock shirt, I could have those actually as a view of the shirt in the Teespring store. But I'm not allowed to do that because I'm not a big enough seller. And I'm like, well, that's sort of a bummer. And they're like, well, that's so, yeah. So if you're Philip DeFranco, you can put in your own models wearing the shirts and all that kind of stuff and do all that jazz. But if you're, me, not so much. So I don't know. We'll see how it goes. Otherwise, like I said, the most important thing is that the shirt quality itself, I've been very happy with. All the rest of the stuff that I've got to deal with is a little bit of a pain in the rear, but meh. As long as the shirts are good, I'm glad. Or, yeah, as long as the shirts are good, I'm glad. I thought I got that one backwards. VJ Morph says, I don't dig the white Vallejo primer, black or gray for me. I think it's the most problematic because it dries on the tip more. But again, I said it's because I think it's because of the pigments, and they're probably bigger pigments because it's white. Yeah, I don't prime a lot white anyway, so that's, for me, it's not as big of a deal. I use it very infrequently. Emily says, I'm voting for Nick Raimondo in 2020. Well, yeah, I mean, that's... I don't think Nick is 35 years old. The cello inside is easily 35 years old, but the case itself is not. So I'm not sure. That's we'll have to look up in the Constitution what exactly that means. Useful G says that Miniac did a really in-depth video about airbrush primers talking about durability and coverage. Yeah, that was like maybe a year ago or so. Yeah, he sprayed a bunch of stuff. Did he like rub it with a, or am I thinking of a different video? There's somebody I saw that was like rubbing it with a toothbrush to try to get the paint to come off or the primer or whatever. I don't know if that was his video or somebody else's, but yeah, it was a good video that I remember, I think. Thanos says, with Vallejo white surface primer, I add some flow improver when priming and I don't get the drying. It just takes a while to dry. That makes sense too. I can see that. I'd be interested in trying to add some flow improver, and then if I could use my hair dryer to dry the model quicker. That's I'll have to try that out sometime. It's just like, it's so infrequently that I do something white though, so there's that. Okay, where are we at here? Switch from Vallejo to Stynylrez primers. Excellent self-leveling and quick dry times makes him a winner. I know that a lot of people swear by the Stynylrez. I have some, and it's one of those deals where I'm like, yeah, but it's like it's unopened. Well, I take that back. I used one once, and it was weirdly separated, but I maybe didn't shake it well enough. I should go back and look at those. But at this point now, the bottles are kind of old, so I don't know if that's a problem. I really need to get a good paint shaking device. Those little battery-powered ones that are designed for like nail polish bottles, like at the nail salon or whatever. Those are not ideal. I don't know. Saber's Edge 80 or 68 also says started using their red brown primer first as an undercoat for Exorcist Chapter Space Marines, and it worked so well that I picked up the black and white as well. Well, that's one of the nice things though about Stynylrez is that they do have a lot of different colors, and one of the colors they have is like a metallic, like a silver metallic primer. I don't know if there's a silver metallic primer from Vallejo. Probably, but I don't know that for sure. But I know that when I'm going to be doing my Imperial Knights eventually, their whole undercarriage area is going to be primed with the Stynylrez silver. So I'm looking forward to that. VJ Morph says, speaking of orcs, anyone else think that Cromlech Incinerator orcs are a better looking sculpt than the GW Burner Boys? I don't think I've seen them. I know Cromlech stuff. Cromlech really got into orcs, and their stuff is cool. But yeah, I guess I haven't seen their Incinerator orcs. I'll take a look at those. Ernie Jr. says, I find myself picking up rattle can primers when I can't decide on what I want at the local hobby store. I mean, collecting primers like that's not a terrible idea. I have been told by some people that rattle can primers will go bad on the shelf over time. I don't know if it was... So, years ago, there's a company called Armory that made rattle can primers, and I would buy it from my local shop. And one time I was spraying it on, and it was just garbage. Like, I sprayed it on, and if I just picked up the model after it dried and just blew on it, I could blow like half of it off. It was super dusty and powdery and crappy. And I don't know what that was all about. And when I talked to somebody someplace, they were like, oh, I bet that can was sitting at the store for a long time, because primers don't last real long on the shelf. Now, I don't know if that's true, or if I did it wrong, or didn't shake it well enough, or it was a bad batch, but that's what they told me. So that's partially one of the reasons why I generally don't use game company primers. I have a tendency to use more like hardware store type primers, for rattle can at least. So yeah, that's yeah, I don't know. I'm not sure if it's so my point is if you were to just collect primers, if they sit for a really long time before you do actually use them, you may want to test them first just to see. I mean, it's not that big of a deal if the primer doesn't stick, because then it's at least easy to get off. It's not like you're stuck. But yeah. BJ Morph says, Keeper of Secrets equals Slanesh Greater Demon. I knew it was one of those. Probably Keeper. Yeah, that makes sense. Christopher Brady. Oh, hey. New to airbrushing. Prime some Plague Marines in Tau, but I find the airbrush to be finicky. Badger. Does it take practice, like any of the skills for the hobby? Well, I mean, to some degree. So when you say the airbrush is finicky, like it's hard to clean, or it sputters, or what kind of, I guess that's the question. I've found that like the spray itself is fine. There is more work, not a ton, but a little bit more work than you might expect if you want to keep your airbrush like really like good and clean. But it's not that difficult. Like I said a bunch of times before, I take it apart, and there are like 4 main parts that can touch the paint, and those are the parts that I then just soak. Like right now, if you went into my basement, you would find those 4 parts from my airbrush sitting in my ultrasonic cleaner in fluid, and they'll just and when I don't let them dry out ever, is my point, which is why I've never had a clogged airbrush. So that's your mileage may vary. Well, I mean, the needle I don't keep in the fluid. The needle, this is the first thing that I take out when I take apart the airbrush, and I dunk it into the ultrasonic cleaner, because I've got some cleaner in there plus distilled water, and then I just wipe it off real good, and then I set that aside, and then all the rest of the parts that paint touches, which is that front nozzle, the nozzle with the cone, the body, those 4 parts, then go into the drink. But like the trigger doesn't, the whatever that part is that screws into the back, that part doesn't, and the nut on the back of that, and there's a spring and all that stuff. None of that stuff ever touches paint, so I don't bother cleaning it, so it stays out. Yeah. BJ Morph says, calling Arch Warhammer problematic is an understatement. Yeah. Emily says, I've never heard of Arch Warhammer. Randall says, never heard of this guy. Sounds like a jerk. From what I understand, he mostly seems to do lore videos, but I have heard I've heard people talk about how he's basically not really being inconclusive. He's, doesn't like, I don't know. I don't know a ton about it, and I don't want to, I don't want to go on about something that I don't know a ton about, but I've heard lots of complaints. So there's that. VJ Morph says, you can download the Gaslands manual for free, can't you? I don't think so. They do have a PDF version, but I don't think it's free. I don't think it's $20, but I don't think it's free. Kelly asks, what's next on your workbench? Like I said, probably trying to finish those. I met someone asked this earlier. Probably trying to finish those Necron flayed ones. I don't like the flayed ones sculpt. Also, currently, if you want to buy them, they're fine cast. No, not going to do that. So I bought like on eBay 3 Necron Warriors, just like in a baggie, like not put together, but all the parts are there. And then I clipped off their hands that are holding the gun. And I've done a little bit of work on their legs, but not as much as I would have liked. And one of them's got... like in the hand that holds the gun, like in his elbow's bent, I've now made it so that it's got a, what do you call it? He's got a combat knife, like a Space Marine combat knife in that hand. And then the other hand is, he's basically like ripped the parts of a chainsword off of a dead, Space Marine, and then like kind of just wrapped it with wire to his other, hand. The whole idea behind the Necron flayed ones, evidently, is that something went wrong in their programming and they don't want to pay attention and listen to, like, their overlords. They just want to kill and just get in there and they don't want to shoot, and so they would just basically like get in. That they're the close combat unit, so I want to be able to add some of those to my kill team. But like I said, I hate the model, so I'm like, well, okay, so their programming is broken and they're crazy, and there aren't really much in the way of close combat weapons for the Necrons, so I would think they would sort of improvise their own. So I've got another one who's just got, I used a piece of plastic card, and it looks like he's just holding this big blade that like starts here and it curves and it goes down past his elbow and it's kind of straight up along this part. I'll have to show you guys pictures when I get him done. And he's got that as this blade, for this one. And then over here, he's just got like a beat up lightning claw just stuck on the end of his arm, which doesn't quite look right. I want to modify it a little bit, but it's kind of cool. Like the lightning claw wouldn't work as a lightning claw. None of this stuff would count as the weapons it is. It would just count as the normal. Because the normal like flayed ones just have these dumb kind of Edward Scissorhands kind of like blades. And just, so I'm doing something different. Emily's working on Thousand Suns and Wanderers for the next escalation. Let's see here. Plague Marines, Death Watch, AdMech. Thanos is working on all kinds of stuff. Got Useful G, VJ Morph. I want the Punk Rock t-shirt, but I'm waiting for the Nick t-shirt so I can get both for cheaper shipping. I don't know that's how it works, sadly, with Teespring, which is also annoying. If you order 2 separate t-shirts, they charge you, I think, full shipping for each one, which sucks. Now, if you ordered 2 of the same t-shirt, you would pay full price for the first one and cheap price for the second one. But almost nobody ever does that. So, yeah, that's also another annoying thing. Yeah. I'm trying to figure that part out, but that's currently what seems to be going on. The way it's written on the website, it's not... Basically, rules is written, they're saying, yeah, if you buy one of this shirt, you'll get it for this price, and if you buy more, we'll cheapen it up. But it's of this shirt, not if you buy other shirts from us all in one order, we'll sell, which is kind of dumb, but they're printing them off all one at a time, and I don't know. That's also, the shipping is the worst part, and it seems for the most part as you folks in Australia are getting boned the most. So hold off a little bit on it, and I'm going to try to see what I can do on that for you, particularly VJ being in down under, as they like to say. Somebody likes to say it. Repainting my brother's X-Wing YT-2400 first, then probably Descent second edition characters want to play at Christmas. Oh, that'll be fun. You know what So I posted something on Instagram a little bit ago where I was at the local shop and there was a bunch of used models that he was selling, and I picked up a bunch of them. And there's these crazy, like, they're Tempestus Scions or whatever, the Adeptus Mechanicus Scion dudes. But the person who built them put them together, painted them black and red, but they had Beastman heads instead of regular heads, which I have already built regular guardsmen with Beastman heads because I want to make Trader Guard out of them. So then this guy already did this, and it's okay. It's not the way, and he didn't do anything on the basing and stuff like that. And so I was looking at him, I'm like, well, I'm going to have to strip them all and all that stuff. But I got them for sort of cheap. It was like $5 per model, so it was not too bad. So I was like, I wonder, because it's not a terrible paint job. I'm wondering if I could touch up the paint job and make it good enough for tabletop. And then I started thinking about, like, that's a video right there. Just like when you buy used, like, what kind of techniques can you use to touch up a used model that's not painted too terribly so that you can make it look better. I mean, that's a terrible title. It's not going to fit on the card. But I'd have to, workshop that a little bit. But otherwise, so I'm kind of kicking that around, and I do want to mess. So I'm probably going to pick one of them and see what I can do and see if I can fix that up. That's also kind of a next thing popping up on the tabletop or on the workbench or whatever. I want to see if I can do that, because if I can pull it off to make them so that they don't, like, if I don't have to completely strip them and then start over, because I know when I strip them they're going to fall apart in the the drink, and then I have to reglue them and stuff like that, which in some situations is fine, because sometimes you buy some models with the glue is just terrible, or it's been around for a long time and it's old and brittle. On the other hand, if they use plastic glue, then they're not going to fall apart in a drink because it's now basically chemically welded together. So it's hard to say. But I do want to maybe do a little series about, like, if you buy some used stuff, can you save it without having to start over? And then also, I mean, in some situations, do you just, rather than strip it, just prime it again and then go over it? Like, I've done that with Nurgle stuff before, like Plague Marines, because I want them to look beat up and nasty. So yeah, just prime over the old chunky paint that the person, did it initially, and then just paint again. That's not hard. But you can't do that for everything, obviously. So. What else have we got? I think Nick would look good with the goat fez hat that you were wearing. Oh yeah, no, that goat fez is in the other room. Yeah, I should have made Nick a little bit more festive. That's a good point. What else? Sorry for all the clicking. There we go. Okay. Hoping I can get a TMX 2019 t-shirt when I'm there next year. I guess I would have to do TMX t-shirts. I've never done TMX t-shirts before, so yeah, I'll have to look into that. That's a good question. Emily says, "Are you selling shirts at TMX 2019? If so, will you include Game 4 shirts?" Well, the Game 4 shirts that we now have available at the Game 4 website, those are also Teespring shirts, frankly. So, because we had a bunch of people who are like, hey, not a bunch. We had maybe half a dozen people say, hey, what T-shirts we want to do? And then we were like, okay. So we did some real quick, cheap T-shirts over there, and so those are print on demand as well. So, yeah, I don't know. I mean, one thing to do would be, potentially, if you're going to TMX, yeah, I got to figure that out, because maybe what I could do is, because there's a part of me that says only people who actually come to TMX should be able to get the TMX shirt. So if I put it online, people could buy the TMX shirt and say they were at TMX when they weren't, and those people would be false and phonies. We don't like that. On the other hand, I could potentially sell more shirts, but whatever. But maybe there's a way where I could order the shirts ahead of time for the people who said they want them, and then they could pick them up at the TMX. And then that, for those of you, especially coming from Australia, that would save you some money. I mean, other than the flying from Australia part. That part is more expensive than shipping a shirt, but nonetheless. Yeah, let me noodle on that. Noodling. Jesse Daniels says, that reminds me, Tabletop Minions update the TMX info. Yes, that's also on my Google Keep list, is to do that. So I'm hoping to do that as well soon. Joseph says, I would recommend you get a Vortex mixer from eBay for shaking. They are pricey, but as much painting as we do, it is so worth it. Vortex mixer. I don't think I've ever heard of those. I'll have to look that up. Useful G says Boulder Creek Railroad. Oh, I was going to say I've never heard of Boulder Creek, but when you said railroad, I'm like, that's why, because I don't really generally watch railroad videos because I'm not a railroader, but that makes sense. It's kind of the same general ideas as far as painting railroad cars versus painting rhinos or whatever. Posted a video today about making your own paint shaker. Really worth checking this channel. There's I've seen people to take, it's called a bar clamp, I think, and it's used like woodworking and junk like that. And it's like a straight bar, and there's a thing here, and then there's a thing, and then there's a I don't know, like a handle, almost like a trigger, and that will tighten it up so you can use it for clamping things. And they make smaller ones. And I've seen people who have, and I don't know exactly what they do or how they do this, but they have attached it then to the blade that goes into your handheld jigsaw. So then you pinch a bottle of paint in the clamp, and then you attach it to your jigsaw, and you pull a trigger on your jigsaw, and the whole thing goes wiggle, 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 real fast. And that's a kind of a quick and easy way to do it. But I don't know how you would attach the jigsaw blade to the metal bar of the bar clamp if you don't have a welder or something like that. Maybe epoxy? I don't know. But yeah, that's also not a bad plan. I had a friend actually who made something kind of like that. He took like a pill bottle and attached it. He had a desktop jigsaw, and when you fire that thing up, there's a part that sticks out that kind of wiggles up and down, and he basically like hot glued, which I don't think lasted for super long, but he did attach basically a pill bottle to his desktop jigsaw, and then he could just drop a bottle of paint in there, tighten on the cap, and then fire it up and shake it pretty quickly. There's all kinds of ways to do it. PJ Morph says, Adam, I got my brother-in-law a bolt action starter set for Christmas, and as he is a military model builder. Well, that's a good idea. I figure once I get him playing with the game with minis, it's only a short jump into 40k and Age of Sigmar. Well, see, that's the trick. I mean, you could, if you wanted to, try to like kind of head through Conflict 47, go that direction. That's a way to kind of work it too. So yeah, that's. I think that there's definitely some kind of gateway game stuff for people who are into military modeling, getting them into military gaming. I think that the people who are into military modeling specifically is not a huge group, but you know, still. Simon Key says, yay, first sprue of Blackstone bad guys built. Thanks for inspiring Adam, background chat, Adam, and chat lobby dudes and dudettes. Yeah, no, that's also something that's on my workbench soon, is I want to build. I'm not going to build all of them to start, but I definitely want to build Pious Vor, I believe is her name. She's got the crazy flamethrower chainsaw thing, the Vindictor, I think, and she can go into my kill team for my Imperial Guard. So she'll probably be the first one that I build, and then the Ratlings, I'll be the next ones right after that. So yeah. VJ Morph says, by the way, Adam, thanks for the Sunday show last week. I found 3D Sculpted Printed Minis YouTube channel. Loads of fantastic stuff about 3D modeling and printing your own minis. Perfect for what I'm planning. Well, that's cool. I think I've watched their channel before, but I'm not 100% sure. Have I? I'm not sure. Somebody else maybe posted a link or tell, yeah, but I don't. I know I do follow a couple of 3D printing channels, but I don't remember if that's the name of one. So yeah. Rattle cans don't seem to have an actual expiration date, but for some reason, this person told me that like hobbyist primer, you know, like primer that you would use for modeling and stuff like that, as opposed to primer that you would use to spray paint your patio furniture, your car, or whatever, is fancier stuff and has a shelf life a little bit more. But they don't print it on there, so that's not necessarily super helpful, is it? Yes. What else have we got here? Whoop. I see you've played Knifey Spoony before. Yes, indeed. VJ Morph, Uncle Adam's lukewarm mess. Title idea for touch-up videos. Yeah, that's maybe. I don't know. What else? Adam, just a second. Thank you again for all you do. Looking forward to TMX and Adepticon and seeing you. Well, thanks. I appreciate it, Kelly. Yeah, I'm looking forward to like towards the end of the year, I was like, I am kind of done with travel. I really don't want to do any more traveling. But now I'm like looking forward to Las Vegas Open in February. Pretty sure it's in February, and I'm going to that. And I've got my tickets bought and everything. And I also am going after that. March is going to be a long one because March I'm going to be in Reno, Nevada for the Gamma trade show. We've got a booth for Game 4 there again. And so I'll be in Reno, and then I'll be home for a week, and then the next week will be Adepticon. So that's going to be a busy month. Luckily, I'm not flying to Adepticon. God, that would suck. Ooh, man, that would suck. Just because of all the stuff that I bring to Adepticon. I've got plans for Adepticon for doing some more videos, a little bit along the lines of the video I did 2 years ago where I talked to all the different painters and asked them all the same questions. I've got some plans that are adjacent to that I want to try to do this upcoming year. And I also want to just talk to more of the people running seminars and do some videos. I'm kind of working with Adepticon with Damon Drescher, who runs he's kind of the hobby czar who runs most of that stuff. He and I had a conversation actually at Nova Open about that. And originally he was like, oh, we should do some live streaming. And I'm like, well, I'm like, I do this live stream, but I'm not sure. And then plus so instead, I think what we're going to do is we're going to do some videos talking about the hobby seminars, talking to some of the people who run hobby seminars at Adepticon to kind of get the point out there that there's something more than tournaments going on there as well. I would say of all the big conventions, their hobby seminars are the best, widest kind of breadth and depth and all that kind of stuff. Nova Open's doing real good work on theirs. They're really pushing it. LVO is probably in third place as far as hobby seminars are concerned, maybe a little bit further behind that. But they're doing good work too, and they're trying. So I think for a lot of people, there's if there were no hobby seminars at Adepticon and at LVO and stuff like that, or Nova, any of those, I think that fewer people would come. I think there are plenty of people who are like, I have no interest in the tournaments. I have no interest in any of that stuff, but I will definitely come and do some hobby seminars where I can learn from like really good painters. And then there are people who are like, well, I'm going to come and hang out anyway, just because I like, going to the vendor area and hanging out and having a good time. But it's still a lot of the people that are there for the competitive stuff, which is fine. That's what brings, that's the milkshake that brings all the boys to the yard or whatever. But the seminar stuff definitely, I think, is definitely something that I think that Adepticon, because they do it so well, needs to push. And so kind of working with them on that. Adam, are you doing an Adepticon meetup? I think so, probably. I'm not exactly sure when yet, but I'll probably try to come up with something as we get a bit closer. Gary Doyle says, I still need a Tabletop Minions coffee mug. Yeah, there are other products on Teespring that I can do. I just haven't really, I don't know. There's weird stuff. Someone mentions the shower curtain. Yeah, that's weird. I can do a Tabletop Minions shower curtain, which would be, you can do leggings, cell phone cases, all kinds of weird crap. So yeah, but we'll figure something out. Let's see here. Joseph says, you have to file down the tail of the clamp to match the profile of a blade that clamps into the jigsaw. They work, but aren't particularly sturdy, and frequently the bottle flies out. Yeah, I could see that being a problem, definitely, especially at the what frequency, RPM? I don't know, the movement rate. I could see the clamp, especially if it's a cheaper little clamp, which believe me, all of my bar clamps are cheap. They would probably, I could see that being a problem. But yeah, I guess if you do file it down, then you don't need to attach it to a blade. You just have to make it roughly the same size as the blade so it fits inside. But that's a lot of work too. Yeah. What else? A jigsaw uses straight blades and the table clamp uses a straight bar. You just need a big enough slot in the jigsaw to hold the clamp and then tighten the nut. Yeah, I can see that too. Let's see here. Michael Strange says, got to run. All Merry Christmas. See you on the flip side. See you later, Michael. Mac the Maker says, I have so much to do for Adepticon. Not looking forward to it, but also am. Yeah, I have a bunch of stuff to get done too before Adepticon, as usual. Actually, we were talking yesterday, me and one of the guys at well, technically Game 4, technically Milk Can, which is the name of the business that I work for, but we're the ones that make Game 4. Anyway, I was talking to one of the guys at work, and we were talking about going to Reno, and he had this great idea about like, well, you know that video you did where you talked to all the painters and all that stuff? And I'm like, yeah. He's like, we should do something kind of like that, but talk to store owners while we're at Reno, because the Reno trade show, the Gamma trade show, it's all publishers and people who kind of service the industry to some. We service the industry, we don't publish games, but it's mostly all publishers and people who service the stores in the industry. And then the people that are walking up and down the aisles of this trade show are not gamers. I mean, a lot of them obviously are, but it's basically all store owners who've come to this convention to interface with the publishers and to interface with the manufacturers and interface, all that kind of stuff. So last year when we were there, people were walking by and checking out our booth, and then I would always lead off with, "Hey, do you run events at your store?" Which is, pretty. It generally at the Origins. Game fair, which is not a trade show, you've got gamers walking up and down, and my kind of when people would walk by and they'd be looking at our booth trying to figure out what we're selling, I'd be like, "Hey, so do you like games?" And if you're at Origins, one would assume, and that was kind of the joke, with the Gamma trade show saying, "Hey, do you run events at your store?" was not a joke, but it did pull in, because almost everyone was like, "Yeah," and you could tell that a lot of them are like, "Yeah," and it's a pain in the rear. And for a lot of store owners, that's the case, but they know they have to do it. Well, so then we'd be like, "Hey," we would tell them about Game 4 and all that kind of stuff. And it worked out pretty well. So we'll be doing that again this year. But this year I also want to try to pull some store owners in and ask them some questions, and we're going to videotape it. I'm not going to bring a lot of fancy shenanigans and whatnot. I'm going to be bringing some inexpensive stuff, but hopefully some decent sound. And we want to put a video on the Game 4 channel and stuff like that once we get to there. We don't really have anything on the Game 4 channel right now, but 2019... we're going to start publishing more content on the Game 4 video channel on YouTube and doing more of that kind of stuff. So we're ramping that up. But yeah, it'll be kind of cool, I hope. VJ Morph says, "Was that Diesel making noise? It would be great to meet your cats on one of the Irregular streams one time, Adam, if you don't mind sharing." I could... But he just walked. He's heavy enough that, and our house is old and creaky enough that I heard him kind of creak the floorboard behind me a little bit, because he's like 18 pounds. He's half Maine Coon, so he's kind of a moose. I don't know where he is now. There is a kitty over there. I can't tell if it's Margot or if it's Maggie because she's sort of backlit by the window. Psst, hey, come here. Oh, that is Margot. Come here. Here. No, come here. No, I can't get you. Come here. Come here. No, come here. I want to having a hard time getting her. She's being cagey. Come here. You want to meet some people on the internet? Gotcha. Nope. There we go. She's wiggly. That's Margot. She's one of my girls. She and her sister, Maggie, were a pair. And she's this one's a tortoiseshell, and Maggie is a no. This one's a calico. Maggie's a tortoiseshell. This one is sometimes a snuggler, but she's not a big fan of being held like this, evidently. So we're gonna put her back down. Normally, if we're like in the den, which is right over here, my wife and I, and we're watching TV, if I hear like a noise behind me, I can almost always turn around, and she will be on the dining room table amongst my stuff or whatever, where she's not supposed to be, and then I will pick her up and take her off of the table. Yeah, she likes to come up here. So, but yeah, that's Margot. She's both of the girls. Like, we have 2 boys and 2 girls. The boys, Diesel and Carlson, generally seem to like my wife a little bit better, and the girls kind of seem to like me a little bit better. But everybody's pretty happy with everybody, so that's kind of good. We were originally just going to have the 3 cats, so I went to go get. We went to the shelter to get a 3rd cat because we already had Diesel and Carlson, and then we met not Margot but her sister Maggie, and she hopped up in my lap as I was in one of the little cat rooms or whatever, and then we were like, "Oh, okay. Well, I think this is the cat we're taking home because she picked us." And then it turned out she has a sister, and they're a pair. So that's how we ended up with 4 cats. So yeah. Joseph says, "I will post a picture and description of the Vortex mixer on the showcase. So if you want to look there later and what it is and see how it works." If you do that, what I would do is maybe try to phrase it almost as a question. Like, if you go, hey, I found this vortex mixer or whatever on eBay. Has anybody ever used anything like it? Or is there something else you would prefer to use? Because then that way, because there's a lot of people that are frankly, are helping a bunch in the Tabletop Minions Paint Showcase Club, where they report things that kind of break the rules. Sometimes it's just a touch overzealous, but I appreciate it. You know, if it's not a link, great. But sometimes if someone just posts a picture that's not of a model or a work in progress or a finished thing, but it's like, oh, there's this, there's this spray can and I really like it. That's kind of technically not within the rules. But if you're like, if you make it a question, because like in Rule 1, it's like you can either post pictures of finished stuff, work in progress stuff, or questions about mini painting, saying, oh, I really like this stuff, whatever, do you, not soda, that wouldn't work, but, let's say it was a rattle can. And then you were like, yeah, I really like this stuff, it's pretty good. If any of you used it, or I'm thinking about getting this, that kind of thing, that's just a tip, as opposed to just like posting it, because then someone will report it, and then I have to choose whether or not to get rid of it, and then it's a thing. Anyway, so that's kind of the trick there. If you just want to send me something or whatever, just shoot it through Facebook or along those lines so I can take a look at it. That's fine too. I have no problem with that. Yeah. Thanos asked, when would be the best time to get a hotel room for Adepticon? I could not get a decent one near the con this year. I have not been. The best time to get a hotel room for Adepticon is the day, if not the minute, that they announce that the hotel block has opened. Honestly, like the hotels or the rooms that are in the actual convention center sell out super quickly. And if I remember correctly, it was like July or August when they opened that up, I think. So what I would tell you to do is to, if there's a newsletter, I think there's like an email newsletter thing on the Adepticon website. I would sign up for that. Follow them on Facebook, that kind of stuff. Like, not this year, but last year, I got a hotel room because like I just happened to go to Facebook and not even the third thing down or whatever, as I was scrolling on Facebook, I was at work, said it was posted like 2 minutes ago. It was Adepticon saying, "Oh, hey, the hotel block is open," and I immediately leapt on the link and went and got a hotel room. And I had a friend who did it who tried to do it 3 hours later, and he's like, I could only get 2 days. And then later on, sometimes they open up some more stuff, and it's a thing and whatever. All these conventions, I mean, Gen Con housing is an absolute nightmare. And if you want to be anywhere near the actual convention, like if you don't mind driving in from out by the airport, you can get hotel rooms easy for Gen Con. But if you want to be anywhere near the actual convention, so you don't have to drive in and get parking every day or try to get parking every day, it's difficult. So Adepticon's not as difficult because it's 5,000 people versus 60,000 people at Gen Con, but it's still kind of a pain in the butt. So, yeah. Let's see. Randall says, imagine a cat not cooperating. She was bugging me a whole bunch before I started the show. She wanted to be up on my lap and stuff like that and everything, and so I was doing that. Cat tax has been paid. That's true. Thanks for the cat viewing. Yeah, she was not being very photogenic. She also does like to be. She seems to tolerate at least being held kind of like a baby. She likes that, it seems to be. So that's good. Joseph says, Santa, aka Amazon, is bringing me a monoprice Mini Delta 3D printer, so I am super stoked. Yeah, I think that there's a part of me that wants another 3D printer. Like I want that cheap kind of Creality Ender 3 or whatever the heck it's called. I just don't need another one, you know what I mean? But like I would like a resin one, except that the $500 DLP printer, the Anycubic Photon, you can ask Mac the Maker here in the chat. He will tell you it smells absolutely horrific and will make you sell your house. So that's problems. And the Form 2 from Formlabs, which used to be $4,500, has dropped in price, but still $3,500 or $3,800, something like that. So still not particularly cheap. I did just see an article recently by Formlabs talking about why SLA, which is stereolithographic something or other. They use lasers to do the light in the resin, whereas a DLP printer uses a flat screen and kind of just shows it one slice at a time, as opposed to using lasers. And they were talking about why, lasers are better than DLP and all that kind of stuff. And I'm like, well, and I think it's partially just due to the fact that maybe they're right. I don't know. I have no good idea, but they showed diagrams and examples and stuff like that, which is neat. But I also go, well, yeah, that's because there's a flood of like $500 DLP resin printers right now that are probably making you guys a little bit sad to some degree, but I don't know that for sure. I think Mac would probably know more about that than I would. Emily says that she got her hotel room at Adepticon before the block opened. Not all the rooms are blocked off, but you won't get a better price if you don't go through the Adepticon. I used points since she travels so much, which is true. She does travel a lot. Mac the Maker says, such a stank, talking about the Anycubic Photon. BJ Morph says, Adam, what's the best place in Oshkosh to stay for TMX? Depends on your definition of best. So, if you want the closest and cheapest, you're probably going to be staying actually in the TMX building. So the building that TMX is in is on the campus, and it's called the Grunhagen Conference Center, is the name of the building. And it's an old, well, it's not old. It was originally built as an overflow dorm. So there are dorm rooms upstairs, but they've gone through and kind of modified them. So they're still dorm roomish, but they are for people coming to conferences at the conference center. So for about $40 a night, you can get a dorm room upstairs, above the convention. And it's like 2 twin beds. The bathroom's not in the room. It's down the hall, like when you went to university or whatever, that kind of thing. But otherwise, it's a fine place to stay. Otherwise, there's a Best Western Premiere downtown that's quite reasonable and decent and nice and not grungy. And it's probably about maybe a mile's walk, so if you're going to walk it, it's not too bad. Whereas, like I said, if you stay in the Grunhagen, you're just upstairs and you just come downstairs and it's fine. If you look on the current TMX website, there should be a section about housing, and I think there's a phone number you can call, so you could call and say, hey, I'm going to be here on this date. Can I reserve a room? And like I said, last I looked, I think it was $40 a night, but I don't know if they've changed it. But that's one of the benefits of using this particular facility, the Grunhagen Conference Center, is it's quite inexpensive for me to have the room in comparison to, like, I was talking to a friend of mine who works at this place kind of further downtown that's a new conference center, but it's a super old building that they refurbished and all that kind of stuff, and I've seen pictures and it looks astounding, but their main ballroom is like $4,500 for a single day. So the Grunhagen is wildly cheaper than that in comparison, and so that's why. And it's got decent parking, and there's food around there in the area because it's on the college campus, so there's restaurants around it and stuff like that. And then again, if you come from a distance, and Australia is a distance, you can stay upstairs for cheap. So that's kind of nice. And if you didn't live in a dorm like me in college, I just lived at home because my parents live 4 blocks from the college that I went to, then you get to have the dorm room experience. So that's fun. But just like for a weekend. Anyway. Some other people already started to answer there. The closest hotel that is not a crack house is probably there's a closer hotel in Oshkosh called the Town Motel. Do not stay there. Do not. The Best Western Premiere is probably the closest otherwise. Mac the Maker says, I sent my Photon back. The voxels and Z banding were bad, and the fact that it stopped reading USBs was the last nail in the coffin. Yeah, that's a bummer. I have a vague idea what voxels and Z banding are. I know what Z banding is. Voxels I've always thought of in video game terms, but I can get that. So yeah, but again, you're looking at, well, yeah, but it's a $500 versus back in the day, $4,500 for the Form 2. What if they're going to make a Form 3? Probably eventually, I'm sure. Maybe if they make the Form 3, then the Form 2 will drop in price even more. Says the guy who does not need another 3D printer. Thanos says, I live in Boston and there are creative spaces which rent space on 3D printers. Some are resin. Are there any around you? Sadly, no. There might be a makerspace up in Appleton, which is where I work. It's about a 25-minute drive. It's where Sam lives. But that's where Milk Can is based out of Appleton. So I commute, like I said, 25 minutes is not that bad. There might be a makerspace up there. I don't know. I know our library doesn't do it, so which is a bummer because I wish it did. But yeah. Mac the Maker says, love the TMX dorms. My wife thought it was okay, and the daughter loved it. Well, see, that's fun. Max Anycubic Photon was an earlier model with a crappier Z-Rod and blue panels. I dig the Frozen's Para LED that keeps things from distorting the images. I like the term frozen with a PH. That's a lot of fun. VJ Morph is looking at the Frozen 3D printer. The one on Kickstarter currently is a bit big for my needs, so I'm looking at a smaller unit. Mac the Maker says the Form 2 and Moai's laser give a much smoother surface finish, which makes sense. I mean, yeah, I get that. There's a lot of 3D printer talk going on, which is cool. Mac the Maker says voxels is the same thing from video games. It's the surface artifacts from the image. Oh, I see. Okay, that makes sense. Emily says, I've never stayed in a dorm, but it sounds better than the Crack House Motel. Yes, it is. It certainly is. Yeah, I mean, that place has had a long and storied history, the Town Motel downtown in Oshkosh. I had friends when I was in high school who would go to punk shows in the basement down there that would get raided by the cops all the time. Honestly, the place has gone downhill over the last 10, 20 years. So it's like a long-term place that people stay, and it's just... My dad used to work across the street. It was a savings and loan he worked at. He was the manager there. And he would be like walking, because he would take the bus sometimes downtown, and then my mom would take the car and stuff, because the bus station was like right close to where the bank thing was. So he'd be walking from the bus station thing to the bank thing, and like women would like proposition him, women who were sex workers would proposition him from like the hotel or like motel or whatever, from the balcony thing, you know, on the second floor from their rooms and all that, and he'd be like, no thank you, going to work, it's 7:30 in the morning. And so yeah, it's just never been great. But the thing is when you look for hotels that close to the convention center, you're like, well, this one's kind of close, the Town Motel, that sounds, no, don't go there. But like I said, not too far from there is a very lovely Best Western Premiere, and you know it's good because it's Premiere, I guess. But it's nice. It's right by the bridge, right by the river. It's got a decent restaurant downstairs. So if you wanted to stay there, you could do that. I think last time, actually, moderator Matt was in town when we did those Rec Age Bat Reps back in May. He stayed there. The other big benefit, too, was that place was quite close to... That place was also close to the bar that we like to go to. So, yeah, it's not too bad either. That was easy. I had to take a lift to get home, though, because I was not in driving conditions, so that was good. Thanos says, okay, kids, got adulting to do. Merry Christmas and Happy New Year, one and all. Thank you, Adam. Great show for my first Irregulars. Well, glad to have you here, Thanos. Absolutely, definitely. Gary Doyle says, Town Motel sounds interesting. Interesting is a word. Yeah, you could say that. Yeah. Yep, take care, everybody. Yeah, I mean, it's... I'm looking forward to the convention this year. Again, it's very small, so for those of you that are coming from long ways away, you don't expect a lot. It's a little party, which is fun. And... yeah, but it's fun. Some of you have been there before. Obviously, Mac's been there. Jesse's been there. Some of the other people in the chat, I think, have been there as well, potentially. But yeah, it's a small little kind of thing. We sit around, we play games. There's not any tournaments or anything like that along those lines. It's predominantly all demo stuff. Some of it's home built. You know, like people come up with like their own game design, that kind of thing, and they show it off and teach people about it. There are some vendors there, like... Last year, there were 3 vendors. There was, well, by last year, I mean this year. Yeah, back in June. It was Rec Age, which is Hyacinth Games. That's moderator Matt's company. Him and his business partner Anton. And there was Gaddis Games, which is Lee and Susan, and they make Shattered Crown, which is an alternate history World War I game, and they've got a bunch of other World War II model lines that they produce and stuff. And then there was also Broken Contract is the name of the game. The company is Breaker Press, and they're from Milwaukee area, and they make a post-apocalyptic kind of board game hybrid miniature game called Broken Contract, and they do some other stuff as well. And so yeah, it's not a big vendor area or anything like that. Everything is pretty small, but it's cozy. It's a lot of fun. So yeah. Irregulars paint the town in 28 millimeter. LOL. Actually, last year we went. Let's see. So Jasmine and Anthony, who I've met at Adepticon before, they came, which was great. And Matt and Sam and Sam's girlfriend came, and some other people, and a bunch of us went. There's a bar just a little ways away that's still almost technically kind of on campus called Kelly's, which was a real college bar. And we started there for a while and kind of hung out a bit and everything. And then later on went down to the Reptile Palace, which is a friend of mine's bar. And that's a good deal closer to it's actually not too far away from the Town Motel and not too far away also from the Best Western Premiere. And so, yeah, we hung out there. And that's a great place. I like that place a lot. I used to work there years ago, back before it was the Reptile Palace, when it was called the Lizard Lounge. There's not a lot of change in the name, but some technically. But I was a bouncer there for like 2.5 years back in the mid 90s. So yeah. Anyway, so yeah, there's some after party, after whatever, because the convention ends at like 10, so there's some time to hang out and do stuff and whatever. So that's always a lot of fun. Mac the Maker says, I'm really hoping I can get a couple of the Battletech folks from Chicago to come. I'm offering up one of my giant drop ships to them if they go. Wow, that's fancy. That's very nice. Reptile Palace. That place sounds awesome. Actually, hang on, I got it right here. That's the bathroom. That's the men's bathroom at the Reptile Palace. It is a rock and roll / punk rock style bar, and that's the bathroom there at the Reptile Palace. I called my friend Beth and I was like, "Hey, can I take some pictures in your bar when you guys open at 3?" And she's like, "Okay." And so yeah, that's where that was. Yeah. Anyway, it's a great place. It used to be, honestly, when I worked there, it was a lot grungier. And then when my friend Beth took it over, it's still, I don't want to say it's a dive because it's not, but it's kind of a rock and roll punk dive kind of place. They have a lot of music there. There's a lot of stickers on the wall and skateboards hanging off the wall and stuff like that. But they did swap out all of the ceiling tiles and they redid the floors and stuff like that. So it's not, because when I used to work there, it was grungy, but it was 30 or 40 years of smoking and all kinds of stuff like that. And now you haven't been able to smoke in bars in Wisconsin since 2010. So after that, they cleaned everything up, and then it's nice. It's good. It's a good place though. Anyway, it is 1:53 by my clock, and so I need to go and help my mom with some sort of Christmas stuff that's in the basement that she needs upstairs. So I need to go do that. But it's been almost 2 hours, so we're good. And I appreciate you folks coming by, chatting. It's always fun to be able to kind of have a more intimate, but let's not make it weird, kind of intimate kind of conversation. So I appreciate that, and I'm glad that we get to do these, and the people who get to listen to them later get to listen to them while they're painting and all that kind of stuff. And we get to talk about things we can't normally talk about necessarily, or maybe would bore too many people, in the normal Sunday shows. So I hope that those of you who are into the holidays have good ones, and I hope that if you're not into the holidays, I hope you at least get some time off and sit around and paint and maybe watch movies or whatever you want to do. Play some video games. I think I'm going to do a little bit of video game playing once if I'm doing some painting. As I'm getting older, I'm finding there's times when if I paint for too long, Eventually, like after 3 or 4 hours, my eyes start to hurt. So then I have to go do something where I'm like focusing on something that's further away, and the TV is further away, and I don't generally watch regular television. So I'll either watch YouTube or movies or play video games once in a while. I've been playing a little bit of Battlefield 5 lately, and I'm enjoying it. But I'm also easy to please to some degree. I'm not a competitive player in that either. Anyway, so I hope everybody has a good time with all the holidays, seeing families and doing whatever. And if they don't do that kind of stuff, I hope they have a good time doing what they want to do. And we'll be doing this again next month. It's always the Saturday that is pretty much closest to the 20th of the month. I don't exactly know how I got into that, but that seems to be the case. And otherwise, next week Sunday is the Every Other Sunday show. So I think next week probably be talking about like a wrap up of 2018 kind of a thing, looking back on the year. I don't know. Every once in a while, I think I should probably think about trying to do some sort of half-assed award show for fun. I don't know. Well, probably not this year, but maybe next year. We'll see how it works out. I don't know. Maybe I can come up with something quick, but it's going to be a long week. So I hope everybody has a good rest of their day. And I'm going to go do some stuff, and thanks for watching.